we have Christian young people that are able to communicate truth with gentleness and respect in a winsome way. With even people like debate, especially trains you to communicate even with people that don't agree with you at the outset, right? And learn how to do that and make those connections and do it in a way where people are going to listen and consider what you have to say. Like we just feel so passionate about training Christian young people to be able to do that.
Hello. How are you, Mel?
I am doing good. How are you, Amanda?
I'm doing very well today. I am so happy it is spring. We are, in actual spring now, and it is lovely. I'm so happy.
It's still this little bit of, but it's so nice. There's been some very lovely days. There's pollen, of course, but whatever. So, Amanda, and we've got kids. Obviously, we homeschool, and every now and then you just end up having a conversation with one of your kids that's just real. And most of the time, that's an accidental thing. And I recently had one where my grown child, just suddenly came out and sat down with me and started asking questions about some of my family when I was younger. And it just was this amazing conversation. And, so I want to ask, where do those things usually happen for you? And as our listeners, please comment. Where do these conversations usually happen for you when these random things come up? And what's the most interesting that you've had?
Yes. Oh, that's a good one. So I think there's been several. It just depends kind of on the era or the age of my kids or what stage of life we've been in. We have had some great conversations in the car.
Yes.
When we were driving, and sometimes that where you're sitting beside each other, but you're not necessarily looking at each other can be a great time to have some of those conversations, Or there have been those times, especially once I had teenagers late at night. It's like their brains start working late at night and they start wanting to have these deep conversations. And then recently, most of my kids are now whole grown ups, as I like to say. And recently, my oldest daughter and I had some time together, just a little mom, daughter, girls' day out. And we had such a lovely conversation. It was just so good. And so, think about as things develop in your family, as everybody ages, everybody grows, there might be different circumstances that you have those conversations. But I was thinking recently, my current teenager and I were in the car driving somewhere, and we just got into this whole conversation about Christianity and relationship with God and what that looks like. And it was just amazing. It really was. I love getting that window into how their minds work and what they're thinking about and being able to just talk to them as people,
Yeah.
It's
I
very
think
cool.
it's so important, and it's different how it happens for everybody. Me growing up, I was an only child until I was 18. And so there was a lot of time for my mom and I to talk because for the most part, it was just us. And I had a dad in the picture, but he was at work. And so we just had a lot of time that my mom and I could talk. And that was just never anything that I struggled with. And here in my family now, I have 6 kids. So there's a whole lot of feeling like I don't have enough individual time with each child. And they all have their different ways of talking or wanting to talk. You brought up when you're side by side and not looking at each other, and that kind of frees them a little bit, I think, to be a little bit more sincere and you're not looking at them. There's so many different things, but it's important. And I think that kind of goes into some of what we're going to talk about today on the show. And because you sat down and you spoke with Christy Shipe, And she is with the National Christian Forensics and Communications Association. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And then we're also going to talk about telephone etiquette. So just a whole lot about communicating today and what that looks like in your life. So Amanda, tell us a little bit about your conversation.
Yeah, it was so neat that, NCFCA, I'm not going to say all that out loud because it is a mouthful, has been around a long time. I've heard about it for a long time, but my own family has not ever been involved in it. It's speech and debate for basically NCFCA is a Christian speech and debate organization. There are more than one, but that's the one probably that's been around the longest and is the most well known. And we had such a good conversation. It was just lovely to learn more about it, how it started. And whenever we sat down and Christy was introducing herself, she said, "Oh, I'm Mike Ferris's daughter. I don't know if you know who that is." And I had a little fangirl moment because, yes, I know who Mike Ferris is. And for those of you out there who maybe don't know, Mike Ferris was one of the founders of Homeschool Legal Defense Association, HSLDA. He is very well known in the homeschool world, and in fact was one of our featured speakers at Thrive in 2025. So I was super excited to hear that and just to talk to her. She's lovely. And it was so interesting to learn more about this organization and what their purpose is and what they do.
And it was funny because when I first saw the name, I saw that forensics, when I have one daughter that has always been real interested in forensics, and I was like, forensics, and yeah, totally different thing. Just not.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I
you
think
said something to me about that, Amanda.
yes, exactly. So I think all of us, when we hear the word forensics, we think current forensic science, But actually, if you look back, I'm going to look at this definition. Forensic is derived from the Latin forensis, and it means before the forum or public debate or court of law. So that's where that comes from. These kids, all from young, all the way up through high school, they are learning how to debate and how to do public speaking. And it's so just fascinating to me and so amazing to see that they're learning these communication skills that, especially in our society today, are lost.
Yes.
In large, we don't know anymore how to disagree with each other respectfully and be able to, debate two sides of an issue and walk away, shake hands and walk away not angry and civil, all of that. It's wonderful, I think, that there is an organization that is preserving those skills and really passing it on to the next generation. It was a great conversation. So let's check it out.
All right.
All right. Well, I am here with Christy Shipe, and she is from NCFCA, and I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you what that is if you don't know. So, hey, Christy, thanks for joining me. And would you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure, absolutely. So, as you said, Christy Shipe, I'm the oldest daughter of Mike and Vicki Ferris, if you know who they are.
I do.
So my dad started HSLDA and all of that. So we homeschooled. I was homeschooled way, way back in the 80s, along with 9 other siblings.
Yeah.
So big family, homeschooling, all of that. And then when I was in college, I had the first opportunity to become part of a debate team at Cedarville University, if you know that, Christian school in Ohio. And when I was there, I was able to work with my dad a lot. Of course, he's a lawyer, so debate is natural to him. So we had
Yes.
so much fun doing that together. And he said, we need to bring this opportunity to homeschool students. And as you know, in most states, homeschoolers can't participate in the extracurricular activities that are in public school. So he basically forced me to start a, a league, a debate league for homeschool students while I was still a junior in college. So we started that in 1997. And then after a few years, it became its own organization. So now we're the National Christian Forensics and Communications Association. It's a Christian speech and debate league. So we've added speech events to it as well. We have 10 speech events. We have 2 debate events. And yeah, we've been going strong since 1997.
It's amazing. Wow. What a cool story of how that started. I had no idea. And I've been in the homeschool world for 20 plus years and I did not know that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Our organization, NCHE, we had your dad as one of our featured speakers last year. So
Great.
everybody out there, watchers and listeners, if you missed Mike Ferris from last year, you should definitely go back and get some of those recordings because it's amazing.
Yes.
All right. So NCFCA, speech and debate, it's been around since the late 90s. And I know very little. My kids have done some speech and debate classes like within their co-ops, but we have not ever been a part of an NCFCA club, I think. Are they
Yep.
clubs?
Yes.
Okay. So just tell everybody a little bit about kind of how they get involved. How does it work?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So we are a competitive league. And so we throw tournaments all over the country. And there are independent clubs. We actually don't run any clubs ourselves. We run the tournaments. But as you know, homeschoolers, we're so good at organizing and starting things. So there's lots of clubs around the country. And the best way to get in touch with a club is through our website. And that's just ncfca.org. We've got a big map up there. And you can click on your state, find who your regional coordinator is, look at what the clubs are. And even if there's not a club near you, there's some possibilities to get involved online. I also have a online academy. It's called Voice of Grace. And I do some training online to help prepare people for competition. So our competition season has just started. So basically the calendar looks like in the fall, most people are, if they haven't already taken a speech and debate class, they're taking a class in the fall. And then in late December or mid-December, we usually have our first tournament, but really the competition season gets going in January. And so then we have tournaments from January through spring. And there's lots of local tournaments all over the country. Again, through the website, you can find out where those are. And then we also have online tournaments now. We've got a great platform for that. So even if you can't travel, you can do it from the comfort of your home. So that would just look like getting on the computer, kind of like what we're doing now, and giving a speech to the camera. It is a skill that we use in today's world. And
True.
so, yeah, you can give your speeches, you can do your debates. The debates actually work really well online. And we've got judges that come and judge that. And so the students get all that experience giving their speeches, doing their debates in front of different audiences, and then they get feedback from those audiences. And of course, it's a competition, so there will be winners. We work all the way up to an elimination process where we have quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, a winner, that kind of thing. The local tournaments feed into a regional system, and the regional tournaments feed into a national system. And we have that national championship in June. And, there's some pretty big college scholarships and things that are given out to the winners. So it is a pretty significant activity that gets you seen by a lot of colleges and, of course, trains you in amazing skills for life.
Yeah, absolutely. And what ages is this for?
Yes. So it's the competition side is for ages 12 to 18. And so it's, we say high school, but we know that homeschoolers, that's a flexible term.
Exactly.
So for some people that might mean 12 and they want to get an early start, but we do kind of gear it towards the high school age. And then at a lot of our tournaments, we have stuff for what we call juniors, or like the elementary and junior high age kids. That is doesn't feed into our whole qualification system to nationals or anything. But it is a fun way to get your younger kids started in speech and debate. Of course, they watch their older siblings, then they want to give a speech. And so on the last day of the tournament, when we're getting into those semifinal rounds where not many people are competing, then we have a little juniors competition. Seniors will judge the juniors, and it's usually a fun thing. So you can get a lot of the family involved.
So I love all the opportunities for these kids. I have known, like I said, my own family has not had the opportunity to be involved in speech and debate, but I've known some kids that have, and it has been so good for them. Like they develop so much confidence and
Hmm.
poise and just the ability to kind of think on their feet. And it's really gone with them into adulthood. So I think
Yes.
it's such a great opportunity to develop that in your kids. Um,
Yes.
so you already gave the website, and we will definitely link it in the show notes.
Yep.
But again, just one more time, if anybody has any questions or they want to find out more, where can they do that?
Yes, go to our website, www.ncfca.org, and you can find so many resources. We have like how to get started, little videos, come see it, come watch a tournament first, or come judge a tournament, learn how to judge. Our mission is to challenge and equip ambassadors for Christ to communicate truth with integrity and grace. That is such a needed thing in our world today. I mean, just imagine all of our young people growing up in Christ. We have this message to share, but not a lot of us are super confident to share it. Like you were saying earlier, it really does grow your confidence. And not just your confidence, but something that we take very seriously. Of course, it's to communicate truth, but to do it with integrity and grace. You know, scripture has a lot to say about truth, of course, but it also has a lot to say about the tongue and how to use our tongue. And like one verse that comes to mind is that we should always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that is within us. But when we do that, it should be with gentleness and respect. I mean, and when we have Christian young people that are able to communicate truth with gentleness and respect in a winsome way, with even people like debate, especially trains you to communicate even with people that don't agree with you at the
Right.
outset, right? And learn how to do that and make those connections and do it in a way where people are going to listen and consider what you have to say. Like we just feel so passionate about training Christian young people to be able to do that.
Yes. Oh, and I mean, anybody that lives in this world today, in this country, or anywhere in the world knows how needed that
Yes.
skill is. We've lost that, I think, in our society a bit of how
Yeah,
to be able to disagree and debate, but with respect, like what you were saying. That's
exactly.
incredible.
Yes.
Well, that's so wonderful. I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for meeting with me today and
Sure.
sharing about NCFCA. I love that. And I hope all of our watchers and listeners out there will check it out for their own family.
Great. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I've enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
So that was awesome. And I didn't, one of my sons had done speech and debate through one of our local co-ops. And so when I saw you had done this interview, I was like, what? And I looked it up, and sure enough, it was what he had done. I'm such a great parent. I didn't even know. But
Well, that's
she's
so amazing.
lovely. That was
Is
awesome.
so good. And then I also had an invitation to go to one of the NCFCA tournaments. They have tournaments all over the country and different levels, local, regional, and on. And I had the opportunity to go to a regional tournament and speak. I spoke with several of the competitors, the kids that were there, and I was just blown away by them. They really are amazing communicators. They really are just incredible there were kids there from maybe elementary age. They call them the juniors, the junior level, but they start learning young. And by the time they're in high school, these kids are just amazing. It really was incredible. I love talking to them. So I have a few clips from them just talking about, what do they like about this organization? What do they like about competing in speech and debate? What's their favorite? And you will see what incredible communicators they really are. I also loved that a lot of them said their favorite thing was the community that, we think about in the homeschool world. People always ask, what about socialization? And this is a great example of people, homeschool families that have found their tribe, like these are their people and they love each other. They love all these families. They come, they bring their coolers and they eat together. Then they go and compete. And then they come back together and play games. And it's amazing. It really was a sweet experience.
Let's listen to that.
All right. Hi, Lila. So what did you compete in at this tournament?
In this tournament, I competed in open, duo, informative, persuasive, and digital.
Holy moly. And so what's your favorite out of all this?
I would probably say my open. It's really fun.
Okay. What do you do for your open? What is that? Is that a speech?
Yes.
Speech.
So an open is a speech, and it's an interpretive speech where you cut a book into a 10-minute speech. It's really fun. You get to do some acting, and you also get to have a really powerful theme throughout it, and it's just really fun.
Hey, Danny. So what did you compete in at this tournament?
I competed in informative, digital, impromptu, open, duo, and Lincoln Douglas debate.
That's amazing. And what about being a part of NCFCA? What do you like about that, or what have you learned?
Being a part of NCFCA has truly taught me so much about how to communicate, how to be diplomatic in my views, how to just do educational stuff.
Yeah.
I've learned how to communicate properly and make new friends and advance all sorts of my skills.
Okay, David.
Yes.
What did you compete in at this tournament?
I did team policy was my main thing. Then I did a duo interpretation, digital presentation, and impromptu.
Whoa. And what's your favorite of all those?
Probably team policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you like about that?
You're able to learn a lot about the government, the way that Congress works, because that's this year's resolution. You're able to learn about all of these different intricacies, and it also teaches you to be able to see a type of debate from both sides. You can see the policy from both sides as well, because you have to argue for and against it.
All right. Hey, Ella. So what did you compete in at this tournament?
For this tournament, I competed in duo interpretation, where me and my partner took pieces from a book and basically did this whole acting out scene that was made from parts and pieces. And it was so fun. I love it because I get to just act, but also give something that has an impact.
Yeah, that is awesome. And what is your favorite thing about being a part of NCFCA?
Well, I don't know. The community is really great because it feels like you could just be around kids who are really open about their opinions, which of course can be intimidating at times, but it really gives you a chance to talk to people with all varying types of opinions and just voices. And you get to hear all these different sides of stories. And I think that's really interesting.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Pass it on. Hello, Kate. All right.
Hi.
What did you compete in?
I competed in team policy debate as well as extemporaneous speech and impromptu.
Whoa. Okay. What's your favorite?
My favorite is by far team policy debate. I love how we can debate, and I love how that we can be cordial and nice, yet also debate significant policy decisions that will impact all Americans.
Yes. Don't we all need more of that today?
Absolutely.
I think more adults need to learn how to do that. All right. And what's your favorite thing about being a part of NCFCA?
Absolutely. Kind of branching off of what I said about debate, I think really my most favorite part among everything is being able to have these conflicts and being able to have these debates. But at the end of the day, we still hug each other at the end of the round, and there are no hard feelings. And it's truly just a community that is centered on Christ, and that truly just shines through everything that they do.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
so fun. I had a great time. I started walking through. There was a whole gym full of all these competitors. And I just walked through and I was like, who wants to be on a podcast? These kids are they're so well spoken. They really are such amazing communicators. They have these skills. And it's one of those things, it gives you a lot of hope for the next generation that here is this whole group of young people that have these skills and abilities. They're going to go out into the world. And, when you hear them and you see them doing these things, you think, these are the kids. They're going to change the world. It gave me a lot of hope and excitement for the next generation.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. So, as we continue to talk about communicating, today is one of our real world readiness episodes. And so, what I want to talk about is telephone etiquette.
Yes.
I know when I was a child, that was a huge, big deal in my family. My dad and he always just gives this speech still. I mean, at least once a week, somebody in the family gets this speech from my dad about what it takes to communicate. So it was a really big deal when I was a kid, learning how to talk on the phone. I wasn't allowed to answer it until I had proven that I knew how to answer the phone appropriately and how to communicate effectively on a telephone conversation. And was that something that was a big deal in your family, Amanda?
Not to that degree, no. And it is something that I maybe wish had been more of a big deal in my family because I was terrified to talk on the phone for a long time. It took me a really long time to have confidence enough. Like I was so nervous. I felt like I didn't know what to say or I didn't know, it felt awkward. How do I answer? What do I say? And,
And I think that goes both ways because I think I felt confident knew what to say to answer the phone and to how to handle, getting the phone to my parents, whoever it needed to be. But I think because my dad was a little bit over the top with this is how we communicate, then I was still nervous. Plus, I just didn't talk to people. Believe it or not, I didn't used to talk to people at all.
That's right.
Until after college that I came out of my shell and would talk to people. So that was still a difficult thing for me.
Yeah.
Although maybe not as difficult. I was better on the phone than perhaps in person, needing to go into a store and ask questions, that kind of thing. And that was something that was important to my mom to learn how to do because she didn't like to do that kind of stuff. So she felt like she needed to teach me how to do that. So, communicating and teaching your kids how to do that because we don't think about it. We just automatically do some things. And especially if you look at going to the grocery store, it is so different now. It is so different. You go in, they want you to do self-checkout. People don't talk to you. I remember as a young girl going to the grocery store and people were glad to see you, or at least they made you feel that way. They greeted you as you came in the door. And when you were in the checkout line, the person was talking to you, not to the next person in the next checkout line. And they acted like they wanted you to be there. And and that's the same stuff that we need to convey on the telephone. We need to know how to talk politely and how to, you can't just sit there and not talk. And so while you're formulating that next thing, how do you effectively communicate what you need to on the phone? And how do you effectively hang up when you're done with a conversation? You just don't go click. Of course, at least we can't slam phones down anymore, right?
Oh, I know. It's so true. Kids today don't understand that satisfaction of slamming it down, But, thinking about this particular skill, talking on the phone, being able to communicate, it is something that I feel like, especially maybe my younger kids, and in that age group, teens and down, it's not lost. but it is going away. Like they don't talk to each other even on the phone very much. You know what I mean? Like it's so much text communication instead of verbal communication. So I think this is so important.
Well, and then it falls over into texting in some ways because, we do text differently than when we're talking.
Yes.
And you can have a lot of miscommunication. And so being able to effectively send a text is, I have one child that she texts the same way that she would have a conversation with me. So there's kind of a lot of repetitiveness in the texting. And so we're really having to learn, what do you say and how do you effectively communicate politely? And
Yes.
then there also is this category of, when do you communicate? In this world where everything is just right in front of us 24 hours a day and we're hit with all this constant information, do they know that it's polite to leave people alone after a certain time of night or Sundays for a little while? We didn't talk to people on Sundays. So there's a whole lot that goes into it that still falls into some of how our teens are communicating now. When is it appropriate to communicate? And getting to know people that are in your daily life, knowing when do they go to bed early at night? Do they get up early in the morning? Do they sleep late?
Right.
I think we've lost some of this really knowing people.
Yes.
And then of course the difference between having a conversation with people that you do know versus people that you don't know, businesses and organizations, and because you can't talk to them the same way that you talk to your friends.
Exactly. It's so true. It's so true.
And I
Yeah.
think this will be different for every family. There isn't some overarching statement that can be made on this is how you do it. But I think it's important that each family recognizes, hey, have I talked to my kids about how to do this? And sitting down, during your homeschool day at some point and saying, hey, this is something I just want to make sure that you understand. It doesn't
Yeah.
take a lot of time, but it's something that's important to address.
Absolutely.
And if that's something you have dealt with in your family, please put it in the comments below. What kind of, tips do you have and advice do you have for other families? Put that in the comments and let us know. So, Amanda, we are now to homeschool news.
Okay.
We are winding down the year, so we don't have a lot as far as activities going on and that kind of stuff. We have been speaking to you, over the past month or so about some various news going on with homeschool bills and law in other states. And at this moment in time of recording, we don't have anything major. And so really the only thing that we have going on is it is definitely time that you are getting your registration in for the Thrive Homeschool Conference coming up the end of May. You want to register online now to get the best current price available because it will be more expensive in person. And just so much that there is to offer, visit our website at nche.com and click on events and the Thrive Conference. And there's just tons of information in there to let you be prepared for the conference before you get there. And then the only other thing is, if you have a senior and it is graduation time, of course, our graduation ceremonies are now full, but you can still order diplomas from our website. And
Right.
that, again, you can go to nche.com and go to events and graduation. And if you'll scroll down, you can go to Graduate Central and order diplomas there. So we would love to help you with that. And congratulations on your graduates.
I love graduation time. I love, it's so full circle for me. I've talked about that before. Seeing families, come to this point in their homeschool journey is so exciting. I just love it. I did want to mention on the subject of diplomas, make sure that you guys out there, when you're ordering diplomas, we do have two options for diplomas. If you are a member of NCHE, which we want you to be, of course, but one of the benefits of membership is that you can order a diploma with the NCHE seal and the president's signature on
The
that
president
diploma.
of NCHE, not the
Correct.
president of the United States.
So sorry. I did not make that clear. Yes, exactly. The president of NCAG's signature. So it's just a neat one additional little perk of being a member of NCAG. Now, of course, if you're not a member, you can absolutely get a diploma, and they're wonderful as well, but they don't have those extra things. So I just wanted to make that really clear that we do have two different options.
Yes, thank you for that, Amanda.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, guys, as always, please help us out. Would you like? Would you subscribe? Would you share with your friends? If you have, thinking about some of these things that we've asked you to comment on, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think, what your experiences are. And it does help us also in this world that we live in that's driven by an algorithm. Every comment, every like, every subscription really does help other people be able to see this episode or hear this podcast. So it really, really does make a difference. You think it's not, but it does. So, and we want to help as many people as possible homeschool with confidence and joy. That's our purpose. That's our mission. That's why we do what we do. And so we appreciate each one of you, each like, each comment, each subscription. So we are the Homeschool Show from North Carolinians for Home Education. I'm Amanda Wares, your host. My co-host is Melanie Willis. And until next time, keep homeschooling with confidence and joy.